Hey there, Jim here. Today I'm going to show you how we slashed our AI costs by nearly 100 times, saving about $500 a month just by switching on how we run AI enrichments on Clay. So we've used a platform called OpenRouter. Think of it as a single gateway to hundreds of AI models like GPT, Claude, LLM, Quen, Mistral, etc., and all accessible through one API. So instead of being locked into one provider or paying like a premium subscription to each of the LLM models available out there, we can actually use just OpenRouter to practically use all of the models in its availability. It's really helpful when you're processing data at scale, like for example, when you decide to run over 10,000 rows inside Clay, it will be too costly to use the usual LLM APIs inside of Claygent. So now let's talk quickly about the pricing. So I have here my OpenRouter account. So let's just go here in the credits. So actually you can get started for free with some models, but there's a catch. You're just capped to around 50 requests per day. So that's fine for testing, but not great if you're running thousands of rows, like what I have here. As an example. So as you can see, I've used a free model of Quen3B in this request, designated by the suffix. Let's talk about it later. And in this particular table, you can see that there's an error that we encountered because we are only capped at a certain daily limit. So if you're gonna run across a lot of rows, so it's better to at least top up credits to your account. And here's what happens when you add at least $10 worth of credits. So you move from the heavily limited free tier into a more practical setup. So instead of being capped at just a handful of requests each day, you can access the full catalog of models, and your free usage cap also increases. So from there, you're only billed per token, the input and the output tokens, which makes it easier to, predict and manage the cost when you're running at scale. The best thing here is actually the credits that you top up expires within a year, so you don't go over purchasing credits on a monthly basis. So for example, let's say you run 10,000 rows and the average pricing per row using GPT credits is 2 cents. So you could be spending $200 on those enrichments. But let's say you choose a very cheap LLM model on OpenRouter and it costs less than a cent. So you could just be spending about $2 or maybe $20 for 10,000 rows. So in short, start free if you just want to test it. And for large number of requests, topping off at least $10 gives you full control and yeah, really massive savings. So let's now move on to the various models in OpenRouter. So they really have a lot of models from various LLMs. Most popular ones from Claude, Gemini, and yeah, DeepSeek is free. OpenAI, they also have the latest models, but it really depends on the model's pricing. Let's say for this GPT-5, the latest one from OpenAI, so it costs $1.25 per million input tokens. So $10 for million output tokens. So if you could just calculate that, that could also be very expensive. For us, what we did was we tested various models from Quen. Quen is from Alibaba. Here's the actual table that I did to test the various models. So started with Quen 3 8B, and then the other was Quen 3 235B, and the other one was Quen 330B. So by the way, indicates the large volume of context that it has. So 8B, 8 billion, so etc. etc. And based on the analysis that we did, we have determined that the Quen 38B model proves to be highly accurate and really cheap compared to the other Quen models. So we decided to use it across the AI enrichments that we run on a daily basis. So now let's go to how we could set it up on Clay. So of course, the first thing you need to do is you must copy your API key, which you can find in here. And then you have to use a HTTP API column on Clay to do that. So I already have this example table for that. If you are using or testing various LLM models, out of OpenRouter, so like what I have here in this example. As you might see, there are certain suffixes that were added to some models. So like what I mentioned earlier, if you add the suffix free, semicolon free after the model name, it will be free to run. We are capped at the daily limit, just like what I mentioned earlier. And for some models, like what we have determined, which is Quen 38B, actually it does not perform any web research. So that's the downside of it. If we are going to use it to certain web research tasks, so you must put a suffix, semicolon online for it to perform web research functionality. But the downside to that is it will cost extra. I think the pricing for that is 2 cents per row. So that could impact the cost, that you're running. But there are a lot of things that you can do to bypass that. I use a scraper to provide more context to the LLM to perform certain analysis. So anyway, moving on, let's peek at the example. The setup for this particular table is you must have the research model on another column. And of course, you must put the method as post. The endpoint is this URL. You must copy your own API key. So I've blurred my API key in this field. And the request in the body section, so should be this. So the model should be the model that is in the research model column. And then I just capped the tokens into max of 4,000 for me not to consume too much. But it really depends, on the task. And this is the actual query, so user. And the content is the actual prompt that you're using. So it will be very long if you put the prompt inside the JSON body. So on Clay, I have it on a separate column, which is just a text column. So let's speak into that. So you could just type the prompt as usual, and you will pull in the certain variables that prompt. So yeah, that's how we just set it up. And then if you click on the output, you can see more details of it. So you can find the main output in the choices, go here, and it's actually in the message, and you can pull in the content. So the prompt specifically mentions a specific output, so that's really very short. But you can also find the reasoning in a separate column. So you can add that as a new column. And as you can see, we already have it here. So I'm now going to show another table to show some of the other use cases that I have done for the OpenRouter. And yeah, this is a different setup, by the way, from the previous one, because I put in the model directly inside the request body. So let's see. All right, so since we have already determined that we will use Quen38B for all of the AI enrichments, because we determined it's the cheapest and the most accurate that we have found so far. So I have just put it, not necessary to add another column to have the model. And yeah, I set the max tokens to 8,000. The prompt is still the same. It's still added in a separate column. Because it will be very long to paste that inside the body. So for this example, what I want to achieve here is we want to determine if the company has any compliance-related issues that they have encountered, and if it's in the news. So the first thing that I did is to scrape that with Serper to search for any relevant news, or any compliance issues, regulatory issues, or regulatory penalties that they have encountered, right? So out of that result, so I've inserted that into this prompt for additional context and also for the LLM to analyze. So I just have it here. So it's a really long prompt. So if I run that through OpenRouter, so by the way, this table has a total of 20,000 rows, which is a lot if you use Claygent for that. So this is the example output out of that enrichment. So it will indicate if there are any compliance incidents. So for this one, there's none. For this one, there are several compliance incidents. So in the output, I've organized it. The first one is what is the compliance issue? Where's the source? When did it happen? What type of violation for that company, etc. So yeah, it's pretty organized, and the LLM have done what we intended it to do. So that's the first use case. So the other one is just basic. I think I already showed it to you. Just classify the company if it fits into a certain criteria. And in this case, we want to determine if the company is a GRC or governance risk and compliance company or not. So it's just basically yes or no. So that's why we see here GRC, not sure, not found, and that's just two of the use cases that I have done with OpenRouter. And you can practically run any other AI related enrichments, including web research. Just use the suffix.online to do that. But yeah, it will cost extra on your end. And in short, OpenRouter has enabled us to use a variety of LLM models for testing, for comparing, and also to cut our AI enrichment costs instead of subscribing to each of the LLM models. And I hope this video helps, and hope you could try this one in your Clay enrichments. And yeah, you can drop your experiences in the comments. Thank you so much, and happy prospecting.